Well, high airfare costs and the threat of a hurricane didn't stop Americans from flying last weekend. In fact, air travel broke records over the 4th of July weekend. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA as you know them, said it screened over 3 million passengers on Sunday alone, marking an historic peak in travel. For more on this, I'm joined by Brian Kelly, the Points Guy founder. Brian, great to see you here today. Okay, so we got to wrap our minds around this. What does the travel demand profile more largely look like here, and how are we seeing people kind of navigate through some of the travel options that remain at this juncture?
Well, it's actually pretty positive for consumers. Capacity is up. And what trends I'm seeing is, there's a lot more flights to Europe and internationally, and there were some amazing domestic deals. So travelers definitely still have that appetite for Europe. Most airlines have boosted their flights to Europe. I was checking for a friend yesterday who wanted to come home early before the storm, and everything was sold out. So I'm not shocked. Even with over 600 canceled flights on Sunday, we still cleared that 3 million passenger mark for TSA, which was the historic record. But guess what? The fare prices are not that crazy. I'm booking in August business class round trip fares to Europe nonstop on big carriers, $2,500 to $3,000. Last summer, those were double. So it's interesting to see capacity's up, but airfares are not quite where I think they should be. And I think we're going to see that in the corporate results as they start coming in later this week.
Why do you think that is?
It's fascinating. I think there are a lot of new low-cost carriers. I think consumers are now splurging for premium economy. Business class, and of course, those traditional business travelers have not come back like they used to. The business class passengers paying $9,000 last minute. It's shocking because even this week, you can fly Air France, Flying Blue, multiple dates from major U.S. cities for 50,000 miles in business class. I've never seen so many good deals in both cash and points. And I guess consumers are traveling. They're going on the deals, but they're not paying the top dollar.
Okay, that's really interesting, especially as it's a consistent thread that we've heard from airline operators, at least on the topic, quarter over quarter. And we're set to kick off some of those earnings this week here as well, with Delta being in focus. A lot of people out there, as we were talking about and really looking at what could come forward for airline earnings here, who are you anticipating will continue to be perhaps the best positioned at this juncture?
I think Delta is going to consistently perform well, as they pretty much always do, although they did revise their estimates down a little bit. I think United is the most global U.S. airline, so I think they have the most upside to be had here. Last year they had some pretty tough cancellations with the 737 MAX 9. I think it's been a much smoother summer for them. So, I would say the underdog here would be United to kind of pull ahead a little bit in terms of profitability. I would look out the U.S. carriers. U.S. Domestic airfares really low. And, with the weather and the storm, I would put my bets on the United and Delta to really keep leading the pack in terms of profits for shareholders.
You mentioned United's annexation and, of course, exposure to Boeing, as many of the other airline operators do as well, especially here in the U.S. Is that deterring travelers at all?
I don't think so. It certainly creates news cycles, just like, these extreme turbulence incidents, they go viral, but people are still traveling. And the fact of the matter is, you don't really have any other options besides Boeing and Airbus, and most consumers are going on price. And that's what works. The airlines know that. That's why they've dropped prices. They're filling planes. They may not make as high of a margin, but they'd still rather have full planes than empty ones for sure.
Noted, indeed.